Zack Nagy, Sports Illustrated. LSU Country is our guest. Good evening, good sir. How are you?
Doing good. A little under the weather on this end, but we're hanging in there. Shaking back.
Oh, you all right, man?
Hell yeah. I think it might have been the flu, but we're back now.
Thanksgiving got you, didn't it? Yeah, I know what got you. You said you wanted your mama's cornbread dressing or whatever it was.
That macaroni hit, though. I can't lie.
Oh, it was the macaroni. Yeah.
I think I went out maybe one too many times during Thanksgiving. We're back now. We're shaking back. We're feeling good. We're doing what we got to do.
You went out to the clubs?
I did a couple things and stuff.
You dirty dog. Hey,
gotta live while I can.
How is New Orleans during Thanksgiving week? Is it not like, you know what I mean? Like, you don't think when families here, like, hey man, let's go out to Bourbon Street, you know?
No, it's fun, man, because like all the boys, everybody's like back in town for the holidays and stuff. So you get to see people you haven't seen in a long time. So we made sure to get after it, but I was feeling it Monday, Tuesday. We're back now, though. We're feeling good. We're feeling good.
Oh, it's so great. Zack Nagy's our guest. Let's wrap up this season, Zack. Now, look, I don't really know where to start. Like when I asked this question, like when I asked it to people a year ago, we were still playing. So
Yeah.
we didn't get here. I'm like, man, like, look, last year you're sitting here and you're like, man, what a great year. Year one under Brian Kelly. Zack, the same stuff, the same record as a year ago, and you feel completely different. I don't know how to feel about that.
It's just a challenge just because there's going to be some turnover over the next couple of weeks. Like last year, you were riding a high going to the SEC championship. And like you said, I mean, the script's been flipped. It's completely different now than it was a season ago. You don't know what's going to happen on defense. Obviously, the transfer portal's as big and bright as ever right now. You have a 2024 class that's going to be putting, pen to paper in the next couple of weeks. A lot's going on, a lot of good, a lot of potentially bad. But look, obviously the energy shifted in a big way, and a lot of things are going to come to light over the next couple of weeks leading up to, bowl week.
We have been on here a lot. People have sent super chats and they've asked you if you thought Matt House was out. I was like, look, man, we're still in the middle of the year.
Yeah.
I'm not going to go down that route. But look, let me ask you, because it's been a hot topic for whatever reason this week. What you just talked about it here. What do you think is going to happen? Do you on these changes? Do you think it's, and pun intended, do you think they completely clean house or just a couple of guys? What do you think happens?
My thing really is I wrote a little thing about it a couple of days ago, and it was kind of just a mixed bag of emotions for me, just because, in my opinion, it's super challenging to want to keep Matt House here. You're putting up a historically bad defense. It's one of the worst ever in LSU history, if not the worst. And you've kind of lost the fan base in that aspect. So when I talk about retaining Matt House or cutting him loose, I kind of lean towards cutting him loose just because you don't want to lose the fan base. And you don't want to go into a year where it's a do or die situation for Brian Kelly and this defense. You don't want you kind of want to start clean, fresh after a year like this. So when I'm looking at what I want to do with somebody like Matt House, it's more leaning towards cutting him loose. And look, at the same time, I'll cover all my bases here. With somebody like Matt House, with the personnel, we've seen what he can do. Last year wasn't horrible. He handled business to a degree. So when I look at the Matt House saga, it's one, can he get it done with the personnel? Obviously, this year was a challenge. And are you willing to kind of sit back here and kind of have your fan base on a whim?
All right. See, here's the problem so I've heard Brian Kelly say this, Zack, in reference to personnel. I'm not saying I disagree with, hey, yes, you're right. Like, the reason you're not executing is that there have been personnel issues.
Right.
The problem I have with his argument, or the argument about it just being a lot of personnel, well, then you misevaluated in recruiting, especially in the portal, which is even a more massive problem, because you're going to have to go and do that again.
Look,
right?
That's a fantastic point. And when I look at my two options that I'm saying, retain him or cut him loose, when I look at the cut him loose option, I look at the different personnel packages that he threw out on the field. Abysmal.
Right.
You look at the schematic issues that he had. Abysmal. So I can sit back here and talk about personnel as a whole and the players that you have, and maybe they weren't SEC caliber guys, and that goes back down to recruiting, like you said. But at the same time, you have to try to make way with what you got, and you got to let your playmakers make plays. And obviously, we didn't see that with Harold Perkins through the first couple of weeks, and it was kind of like you transitioned into an inside linebacker role. but then you weren't really wanting him to work him as an inside linebacker role. You were throwing him wherever the hell you could and trying to make way with the talent that he has. So that's my thing when I'm looking at cutting him loose potentially. You didn't make the most of what you got, and what do you do now? Do you just like you said, clean house? Oh, what happens now? And so, look, you got my 2 cents. I don't need to ramble on and on, but you got some decisions to make sooner rather than later. Because I'll be damned, man, you can't lose this fan base this early in the Brian Kelly era.
I agree, and I don't even think look, even if Matt House comes back, you can't lose faith in him because he's gonna be here after next year anyway, unless something happens where he leaves. But I don't think that that's happening. On the opposite side of that, Zach, as much as you got to fix things in a personnel light on defense, you got a lot that you got to replace on offense. The question, we got to ask this a lot already tonight before you joined us, but do you think, not to start, I'm not saying that, do you think that LSU goes into the portal and pull or tries to get a quarterback for depth reasons?
Yeah, I would say not hell yes, but I would go in there and say like, hell yeah, man. Like you're one injury away from starting a redshirt freshman or a true freshman.
Right.
You're sitting there with, not a lot of reinforcements in your back pocket. Your bag's not deep when you're looking at the quarterback situation if something happens with Nussmeier. So look, it's hard in this day and age to go into the transfer portal and say, you might be our backup. It's hard to pull somebody in and say you might be our QB2. Nussmeier's waited. Nussmeier's done his time. You don't owe Garrett Nussmeier anything. He has to earn that spot at the end of the day. But yeah,
Right.
I mean, to answer your question with a one-word answer, yes, you have to go into the portal and you have to go get a quarterback. You have to, establish depth at that position group. Yeah.
You know what it reminds me a lot of? In a way, it's not the same, okay? But in a way, it reminds me of when Brian Kelly obviously came here. Zach, I'm old enough to remember that Miles Brennan came back, and you obviously have Nussmeier, and then you go and get Jayden Daniels. But there
Right.
was a lot of the same conversations there. Like you couldn't trust Miles Brennan because he'd been hurt more times than he could count. Okay. Tripped over a flip-flop. All right. I mean, like he even confirmed that he tripped over a flip-flop. It's not me saying it. Like he confirmed that rumor. Okay. And then you got a young Garrett Nussmeier who, Zach, the next time that we saw Garrett Nussmeier play in any game, he threw 2 picks against Southern. So, yeah, I think if you don't go do that for depth reasons alone, you could be in issues. Now, let me ask you this. Is there any quarterback right now that you would target that's already in the portal?
It's tough because, man, you're seeing so many dogs enter the portal right now. It's free agency. Like you have
Would
so
you
many
go
guys.
get
Like
KJ?
obviously, KJ Jefferson's somebody that people are going to look at. Grayson McCall is an interesting name just because what could he do in this offense? And, like, obviously, Sunbelt over here. I'm going to sit here and talk about my 3-time Sunbelt Player of the Year type of guy. But look, man, like, you got guys, you got dogs in the portal that you can go after. And do they go after a big name like that and try to sway him and say, look, you can come in, compete, and try to get this QB1 job? Or do you go and try to get depth? Like, you just try to go get depth. You're weighing your options here. It's a challenging situation, but look, ultimately you got to go get a quarterback. You got to go get somebody to back up Nussmeier at the end of the day, and it's gonna be tricky because I trust Nussmeier's arm talent. I think Nussmeier has all the intangibles in the world to be a good quarterback and not necessarily carry the torch, but get there and be a game manager if you need him to be. But you got to go get somebody. You got to go get somebody.
Did you just say that you were a 3-time, a humble brag, a 3-time Sunbelt Conference award winner?
Grayson McCall was.
Oh, I thought you said I am, and I'm like, man,
I wish. Oh, I almost.
did
I
my
wish.
man play safety in the Sun Belt, and I didn't even know it?
I wish. We're talking McCall. We're talking business. He's the man.
I was like, Zach Nagy must have been, like the Sun Belt's Jack Hunt.
I would be flexing my ass off if I was a 3-time Sunbelt Player of the Year. You gotta come on, man. Come on now. My goodness gracious.
Oh God, it's so great. All right, Zach Nagy, LSU Country is our
Use my language too.
Dude, you're fine on this one. On the other ones, maybe not. On this one, trust me, we're fine. So listen, Corey Raymond was fired this week by Florida.
Yeah, here we go.
So look, I've told some people this, but I'll just say it here and get your thoughts. I feel like I'm on an island on this take. Do I think that Corey Raymond can come back and do great things at LSU? Sure, we've seen him do it before. Do I think that he can do better in recruiting in state? Yeah, we've seen it before. But Zach, I got to be real with you.
Yeah.
The last 4 years, he's had the just average rank of pass yards allowed, passing team or pass coverage teams. He's 90th. If his name was Corey Smith or Corey Nagy, and that was his resume, and he had never been here, let's say he was at Alabama, for example, like if he did all that at Bama and the same kind of situations happened. If I said he's going to be your next DB coach, would you not have questions?
I mean, you bring up a valid point. Obviously, it's a name thing that sticks out like a sore thumb.
Right.
He's a fantastic recruiter. He locks down the state. He handles business. He does what he does. And you can go look at the numbers. And obviously, he was a member of that 2020 defense where one of the worst that you've
127th out of
seen.
130th, man. It was horrible.
Yeah. So at the end of the day, I don't think Corey Raymond is your answer. Obviously, people will sit back and say, no, bring him back. Like there's things that he can do. But in my opinion, there's too much baggage. And you have somebody, you have recruiting gurus who can go out in the state of Texas and state of Louisiana and try to lock down players. You have Frank Wilson for crying out loud, man. He's the Louisiana guy. So you have experienced guys who can go out and recruit, and it's not really worth the baggage, in my opinion. I think Corey Raymond can be a good coach, and I think he's a great person. But at the end of the day, I don't know if it's worth going out and giving him another chance right now, right off the bat.
Well, look, I am not, and I don't think I know you're not either. Just to clarify, I'm not saying he's not coming back here. I don't think that you're saying like he won't be the next DB's coach. But all I'm saying is like if we're going to act like that there's not question marks around that, I think is a very big, like, I mean, Zach, I'm looking at, hold on, I got it right here. Because I talked about this last night. I mean, you're talking about, Zach, in the last 4 years, or since NIL, this is how I phrased it. Since NIL,
Yeah.
Okay, 127th in the country in pass defense, 91st in 2021, 2022 74th, and 2022 or 2023, excuse me, 69th. Average of 90. So again, like I get that there were bad teams, but you can't always be reliant on a Derek Stingley to save you every day.
Agreed.
Right? Derek Stingley goes down, you got to have other dudes that can step up and be moderately good. You can't just, but what do I know? All right, couple more. Zach, were you at the Kim Mulkey press conference today?
Yeah, man, that was wow. That was something, man. That was something. She went 12 minutes over, clapping back at everybody. She was confronting people. It was fantastic. She was talking her stuff, and she was answering the questions, and she was asking them right back. So she was doing it the Mulkey way. I can't complain. It was fantastic.
By the way, I haven't posted this because I'm not giving him the justification, but you know that Glenn Gilbo got freezing cold takes because of our tweet saying, going back and saying,
"Damn, I saw it."
He did block me, but I'm not giving him the justification of him like knowing.
He's blocking everybody, man. He's on a rampage.
Okay. Let me just one thing. I mean, it's great to have Angel back.
Right.
But do you think that am I wrong in thinking that would you do this to Brian Kelly? Like my every time they keep asking her about it, I'm like, would you keep doing this if it's Brian Kelly? Because I get the question, I get asking about it, but she's pretty much put her foot down and said, guys, I'm not telling you what happened. So why does people keep asking the details like Glenn, do you think? And do you think it's justified that people for that question?
It's a unique situation because I was looking at it this way, and a couple of us were talking about it. Imagine if Jayden Daniels just mysteriously just disappeared for let's say 2 games. He missed 2 weeks. And you consistently ask Brian Kelly, where's he at? Where's he at? Where's he at? And you get no answer. There's going to be some type of pushback. Eventually, people in the media are going to try to come after Kelly in a way and try to get his perspective on it all. Comparing the two is difficult. It's difficult. It's a difficult situation.
I just thought like Denver Harris. He answered the question twice, and it was pretty much over with.
It is. It's challenging. It's challenging, and I understand not wanting to give the details of the situation, but at the end of the day, all you're doing is leaving people to speculate, and it makes the program look a little bit, worse to a sense. I understand keeping things in-house. You've played ball a lot of us have played ball and stuff, and it's just kind of like the locker room's a sacred place. I get it. She talked about that today.
Right.
But man, it's challenging when you're seeing so much speculation from the outside, and you have the opportunity to kind of clarify it if you'd like to.
I mean, what you wanted to go out there and say? Hey, they were fighting in the locker room.
Exactly, and it just makes the program look bad. Exactly.
I mean, it's either way. It's going to be interesting. What do you think about Smith being out? That's a big loss.
That's a lot bigger, but that's a tremendous loss. I really hope people understand how big that is, because she was in the midst of a year where she was going to break out. She stayed in Baton Rouge all summer. She was really one of the only players that actually stayed here all summer and worked on her game. She lived in the weight room. She worked on her game. She did what she could, and she hit that next level, and she was poised to have a breakout year. And then obviously, I mean, dude, she didn't just hurt her knee; she blew it out. ACL, meniscus, MCL. I mean, everything. So she's gonna have a lot of rehab moving forward. But to get Angel Reese back in that front court is a big deal.
Well, you kind of need her now. Funny how that suspension got lifted.
I was waiting for you to say that.
All right. Well, they got a good big game tomorrow against Virginia Tech. We'll see how that plays out. All right, a couple more for you, Zach, but we do have a $9.99 super chat here from Wade. He says, LSU is circled by great Louisiana recruiters, Bo Davis, Terry Joseph, Elijah, and now Pete Golding. Thank you, Wade, so much for the super chat. Going to his point back really quickly, or going back to LSU football very quickly. Look, when you talked about, there potentially being a change at DC, dude, I really want a DC that will come in here and recruit. Like, actually recruit. Like, meaning Dave Aranda, love him to death. Didn't recruit well. Matt House, love him to death. Didn't recruit well. Durante Jones. Durante tried, okay, but Durante wasn't here long enough for it to be worth a damn. He never saw a recruiting class. Bo Pelini got Greg Penn here. Okay, well, Greg Penn won you a game. All right. And Zach, I just sit here and say to myself, look, you know what the biggest lie in all of sports is, and I hear this around LSU all the time. Oh, well, this corner, like he doesn't like to recruit. What do you mean you don't like to recruit? You're getting paid $2 million. Stop being lazy and go out there and recruit. Am I off by just saying like, hey, man, go get a dude that wants to go kill it in recruiting?
I think that's, again, an extremely valid take, because recruiting builds the foundation of a championship team. And I think that question that he asked was kind of around when we were sitting there talking about Corey Raymond, because I was sitting there saying how, yes, he's an elite recruiter. Yes, he can lock down Louisiana. Yes, he can go and get cornerbacks wherever he wants. But at the end of the day, the numbers show that maybe you shouldn't bring him back. So, no, I mean, that's not a crazy thing at all to say I want to go get a defensive coordinator who can, goddamn it, go out there and recruit the best of the best on a week-by-week basis, month-by-month basis. So, no, I mean, that's how it is. It's the foundation of building a championship caliber roster.
Very quick thought on men's basketball. Did you watch the game last night?
I did, and look, it's hard for me to continue to sit back and saying it's a work in progress with Matt House. Obviously, he inherited Matt McMahon. I apologize. It's challenging for me to sit back here and say, for Matt McMahon, he inherited a challenging situation, and he has work to do. And look, the recruiting class that he's bringing in is pretty solid. He's bringing in, top 50 guys, Curtis Givens and Robert Miller III. So he's doing what he can in the recruiting trail. He'll have to hit the trail quarterly. Again, unfortunately, I have to say that it's a work in progress. Rome wasn't built in a day, and I don't want to say to be patient, because that's not what anybody wants to hear, but it's going to take a little bit of time. And then without Jalen Cook, suiting up for the Tigers, it's a tremendous loss. That's a 20-point per game scorer. So they got smacked in the face with him being ineligible. So a challenging year ahead for this program.
I said this last night. I'll continue to say it, even if they don't win an SEC game. If something happens at the end of the season, it is what it is. This is, for me, this is technically, like, I'm viewing this one under him as year one.
Well said.
I don't think that you can judge him off of this year and last year, Zach, mainly due to the point of, what did you want him to do last year? I got to tell you, when he beat Arkansas, when LSU basketball beat Arkansas last year, I was like, oh my God.
Holy shit. Yeah, exactly. I was like, what is going on? Exactly.
Matt McMahon's going to run this thing.
He went in the student section. He was dapping up people in the student section. I was like, what are we doing? Like, what are we doing here? Like, this is fantastic.
Well, and I got to be honest with you. I was like, I never seen him have that kind of emotion. I was like, oh my God, he wants to win so bad here. And I see it, and people are bailing on him, and I'm not going to do that yet because I like Matt McMahon a lot. All right, last thing for you here, college football championship week. How do you see it shaping out? I think that there's going to be some upsets, but how do you see it happening?
Yeah, I think this is what a lot of us have been waiting for because we want to see what that final, college football playoff, that Final Four looks like. And there's so many things that can twist and turn and make it this just challenging way to pick your Final Four. I'm really excited for the SEC championship. Bottom line, I'm not going to like dance around it and anything like that. I'm really intrigued to see what happens here. If Bama wins, what the hell happens with your Final Four? So yeah, I'm excited for that SEC championship game more than anything. Obviously I've checked around and done a couple scouting reports on a couple other conference championships, but that SEC championship is obviously the one that you and I are circling and most excited about.
Yeah, and I got to tell you, I'm almost, not quite, almost as intrigued. I think for an LSU base has a little bit more intrigue because of Jayden Daniels. A Friday night, Oregon versus Washington. I got to be real with you. On Ruffino and Joe show, I picked Oregon to win. I picked them into my preseason to win the Pac-12. I'm going to stay with them. Dude, I think that Bo's going to have a good game. This defense for Washington's not good. What do you think about the Pac-12? How do you think that one's going to shake out?
I think Oregon ultimately wins that game. I guess you could say Bo Nix is going to have a good game, checking it down and throwing it 5 yards every play. And that's fine. That's fine. That's fine. Let the check down artist do what he can. And that's the only time I'm going to be opinionated, just because I'm so intrigued with the Heisman race. I'm such a Jayden Daniels advocate, so I have to throw out some slander as best I can. Bo Nix is a fantastic game manager. He's a fantastic quarterback, and I think ultimately Oregon's going to beat Washington at the end of the day. They're going to get the job done. But yeah, this is where you can see a lot of things shake up with the Heisman talk over here. Obviously, if they lose, good God, we're going to see hell break loose. But I think they win. I think they get it done against that abysmal Washington defense.
You know what would be wild and would help Jayden a lot is if Florida State won and Alabama won, you could say two of his losses came against the ACC and the SEC champs. So in a way, you need Oregon to lose. Okay, for him, you would need Oregon to lose. And if Alabama could pull, which in my opinion would be one of the more crazy not maybe crazy upsets, but just nobody really thinking that it can happen.
Yeah.
And then, it would help Jayden a lot, but I don't know if any of that is going to happen. But look, at some point, we need chaos. We got chaos a year ago when TCU went down to Kansas State. Zack, tell it, look, we've done this with you. Let me say this because, we got Christmas right around the corner just in case we don't get you back. I'm sure we will, but just in case.
Yeah.
It's been a great year having you on here every week, man. I appreciate you being here with us. It's been a lot of fun. We're going to continue to do it, and bring you on here. But tell everybody where they can catch all of your stuff and what you're doing over there at LSU Country.
Yeah, hell yeah. You can go check out LSU Country on Sports Illustrated. It's si.com/LSU, and putting out recruiting, football, basketball, anything LSU related, man. You name it, we're pumping it out there. So we got LSU Country Twitter. We got my Twitter right here at Nagy20, putting out things every single day, putting out a bunch of content. Like I said, man, LSU stuff, you name it, we got it. But yeah, been a fantastic year. I'm sure we'll get me on here before the year ends. But yeah, I look forward to keep doing it, Blake. This has been fantastic.
Now, let me ask you this. Your buddy Preston Guy, I heard he had a warrant for his arrest in the state of Oregon. Is this true?
Man, he's been on a rampage on Twitter. I'll tell you that much. He's been getting some clout. He's been doing he's not shying down from any competition. He's been putting anything he can out there, and he's handling business. Him and Cody Warsham have been kind of leading this charge for Jayden Daniels for Heisman.
No doubt. Thank you so much, buddy. Thank you. We'll have you on back again before the year's out, but just in case we don't, thank you so much for the year. It's been fantastic.